Hello and welcome to the Unique CPA with your host, Randy Crabtree. Our commitment is to our thriving community of accounting professionals who are physically and mentally healthy, fulfilled, and energized by their work, with the ultimate goal of elevating the reputation of the best profession in the world. The Unique CPA is brought to you by randycrabtree.com. Log on to learn more.
Today's guest is Mike Payne. Mike's a lawyer and a CPA, entrepreneur, and advisor who's helping redefine what modern professional services firms can look like. As a founder of Boss Advisors, now part of Haga Comer, and a leading, we edit this stuff, so it will be fine. Now part of Haga Comer, and a leader in Arizona's multidisciplinary, what's the word?
Multidisciplinary.
I can't say that word. A leader in Arizona's I still can't say it.
Okay, so let's adapt. Let's say
disciplinary. Got it.
I got disciplinary. It. Okay.
And a leader in Arizona's the multi screws me up. Justin, sorry, you got a lot of editing to do on this intro. Arizona's it's so weird. I've never had this before where I can't say a word.
This is awesome, Randy.
Multidisciplinary firm movement. And a leader in Arizona's This has got to be a blooper reel.
This is a great start. We should just leave this. This is amazing.
We should just leave this.
You want to talk about having fun? This is awesome.
All right, Justin, we're gonna roll with this. He's a leader in Arizona's the word I can't say firm movement. Mike has built his career around one big idea: business owners get better results when legal, tax, accounting, and advisory professionals work together instead of operating in silos. Mike, it was a lot for me to get through, but welcome to the Unique CPA.
Thank you, Randy. Appreciate you having me. I love your podcast.
Thank you. We're already meeting one of the requirements of the podcast, which is have fun. And we got through and we're here. So let's get into the conversation now, or even before that. Let's set the stage because of who you are. Wait, who are you? What are you doing here? Oh, wait, no, never mind. I remember that part of it. But I mentioned there, you're a lawyer and a CPA. I don't know if that was the idea from day one, but I guess let's talk about what led you down that path. Was there a point in time where you thought, do I have to choose one? Or it was like, hey, I'm going to blend these together?
Yeah, so I never wanted to be a lawyer or an accountant. When I first started, I just wanted to be a business owner. That's what my family does. My dad does, all my uncles, my brothers. And so I went to school, kind of had this model in mind, developed it over time. That, there was a guy that I respected a lot growing up. He was a lawyer and a CPA, and he actually ran a construction business, building custom homes. Never practiced on either side. And I talked to him about it when I was studying. I was in a business administration degree at the time. And he said, look, go get the skills. An accounting degree will give you skills that a business degree won't. And then just see where it goes from there. And so did that. By the time I graduated, the recession had hit. And so I got my year of experience as CPA and decided, I'm just going to stay in school a little bit longer and kind of ride this out. And so ended up going to law school kind of last minute. That's another story. Got enlisted in classes the day classes started. So I missed all the orientation. I didn't know I was going to law school till the day before law school started. It's wild. And then in law school, I actually wasn't planning to go into tax. I had a CPA with a few years of tax and accounting experience, but I didn't want to pigeonhole myself at first. And then I kind of realized over time, talking to some tax professors, that, hey, there's real opportunity for someone with my background to just get really good at it. And, frankly, they knew I wanted to be a business owner someday. And so they kind of just said, look, this is the best combination you can have. If you're going to be a business owner, this will at minimum govern what you do, educate you as a business owner. At most, maybe you'll end up practicing both these areas and you'll be a great asset. So.
We talked about, so you wanted to be a business owner. When did Boss Advisors start then? I mean, was this right after law school or?
No, I wasn't that brave. I cut my teeth at Ernst & Young. I actually started their nonprofit group, knowing that eventually I wanted to get back to local business owners for the most part, which is what I had started in. I left EY to go to a regional law firm, was there for a while, ended up coming back with a promotion at EY. Got close to senior manager, and then I decided that was the time where I wanted to jump out and try things on my own. And one of the reasons I did that is because I was getting recruiters hitting me up 3-4 times a week. LinkedIn, my email inbox, my cell phone, both texts and calls. And I even had some recruiters call me at my office desk while I was at EY, which means they had to go through the phone tree. They had to call the front desk at EY and say, I need to talk to Mike Payne. They would transfer the phone to me, and it would be a recruiter asking me if I wanted to go to another job. I'm like, guys, I'm at work. Like I work in a cubicle. People can hear this conversation. Maybe let's connect after hours.
Yeah.
And so I just felt like I had so much job security that, the risks shifted from, oh, I'm scared. I've got 3 kids. I'm going to go jump out and start a business. That's scary to, well, what if I don't do this? I know if it fails, people will respect that, first of all. And second, I've got a lot of job security. So I'll never, with my background and, you're kind of at that hot spot, the 5 to 7 year professional that everybody wants. So I knew I was desirable. And so I just decided I'm going to launch it and see what happens.
And what year was that?
That was end of 2017.
2017. So 9 years ago. And I'm curious of the name. First, Boss, which I think it's all capital letters.
Yeah.
And then Advisors, which is when I was talking about multidisciplinary. Oh, I did pretty good that time.
Nice.
And advisory, it was probably the mindset. So talk about the birth of the name of the organization.
Yeah. So when I first started out, I had, I met with the state bar. I met with the Arizona Board of Accountancy, and then I found every JD CPA I could find on LinkedIn. I had a pretty small network at the time, but I talked to 3 or 4 people. The practitioners gave me the advice of, hey, just pick one hat and wear it. You can be a lawyer in an accounting firm. You can have an accounting background in a law firm. Those will both help you, but don't try to do both. It's too complicated. I said, thanks. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So I went and met with the state bar, with the Board of Accountancy, and walked through the ethical rules. They said, you can do it. You just have to have, certain things have to be kept separately. You can't have accounting staff access your legal records and, that kind of thing. And so I ran them as Payne Financial and Payne Law, PLC. And then eventually Arizona changed the rules, first state that allowed lawyers to share fees with non-lawyers. And so at that point, I merged the 2 firms together. I had my a business partner at the time was an enrolled agent. He came in as a business partner, and then we were able to do everything under one roof. And it just got a lot smoother at that point. And that was a good time to do some rebranding because I noticed when, we had our names in the firm, it was Payne Hipsch. Everybody was coming to, try to pronounce that name, Huebsch.
Yeah.
Love Chad, but that's a tough name to pronounce. So
Yep.
We decided we wanted a more general name that didn't encourage clients to come to us for every problem because we're trying to grow and scale. And so, I worked on it for weeks. Spent way too much time coming up with a bunch of different words. This is before AI, so I had to use my brain, which is a challenge. And, I just hit me one morning. I popped up at 3 a.m. and I was kind of looking for an acronym at the time. And so it popped in my brain like, hey, BOSS, business owner, systems and strategies.
Oh, wow.
So that's what it ended up being. And I can tell you, while we were BOSS advisors for the next 5 years, every time I asked my staff what it stood for, everybody said something different. So it wasn't the most effective acronym ever, but I did like the name. It kind of had a double entendre, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah. Just as a quick story, coming up with the name Trimerit, which by the time this episode airs, I will have been retired from Trimerit. But that, like you said, weeks, probably at least, coming up with the name. And I think I may have told the story on the podcast before, but my wife ended up dreaming part of the name, and I can't remember what part. And then I was like, came up with the other part, and was just good to put it together. And it was pretty much, I think she came up with I don't know, she was thinking like, try something, try this, try that. And then I was like, okay, I was putting credits, because as we were doing R&D, tax credits at the time was just that. And I was like putting that through a thesaurus to find, I said that way. I could say thesaurus. I can't say multidisciplinary. All right, we're getting there. I was putting that through a thesaurus, and then finally came up with merit. You've earned this. You deserve it. It's yours. You've merited this. So yeah, it was I often say that was like the hardest part of business was coming up with the name.
Yeah, it is challenging. I like BOSS because we try to work with the decision maker, right? Work with the boss. And so we're advising the boss, and, it had a couple of meetings. So
yeah. And you look like a boss. So it works for you personally too then. So
a bald boss. Sure.
Well, let's transition then, because that is not the name anymore. You recently, and I think it was sometime last year, you can correct me, you went through a merger or an acquisition where you're now part of Haga Comer. And so talk about that process, because this is pretty interesting. There's a lot of this going on, M&A and PE, private equity, and all these different, VC and just investments in firms, financial services firms, buying accounting firms, all this stuff. So I'm assuming you had a lot of opportunities, a lot of people interested. How did this whole process come to be, and how did you end up with the firm you decided on?
Yeah, so it started, I had a couple of suitors who just approached me and kind of said, hey, I really like what you're doing. Would you be interested in partnership or an acquisition and then staying on in a strategic role? And I kind of toyed with it. I talked to my business partner. We thought, hey, there might be a reason to do this. We kind of got to the point where we plateaued just over 2 million, stayed there for a few years. And I kind of came to the realization, this is a very humbling, difficult realization to come to, is that my skill set is not necessarily the right skill set for taking a $2 million firm to $10 million. I'd never run a firm or any sort of business before this. And so to me, getting it to 2 million is a huge accomplishment. And I think that's more in line with what I like to do. And I do that for clients every day, work with startups, get them to the point where they're up and running and operating, get to a certain point, and then they bring in, a C-suite, a sales team, more mature leadership. And so we eventually decided that, hey, we're going to try this. We're going to work with a business broker, a guy named Justin Farmer, who is fantastic.
I know Justin. Yep.
Yeah, Justin's a great guy. I like working with Justin because he is a former M&A business lawyer like I am. And so he had a very unique approach. In Arizona, business brokers tend to start in real estate. It's just a different ball field. And so that was a great fit for us. He got us in front of a handful of PE firms that were interested. Just wasn't a good fit, and then eventually he brought us a firm called Haga Comer, and the founder's name is Toby Comer. About a $30 million firm based in the Midwest. And so just very down to earth people, Midwest values, hardworking farmer types. And that's, my dad's a farmer. So I kind of resonated with me. And so, Toby's grown by acquisition. He's done 30 something deals. His typical deal size is 1 to 2 million. And he's got like a $10 million acquisition budget this year alone in 2026. And so different growth model, but very effective. He'll buy up retiring firm owners or firm owners who are ready to be part of something bigger, which was the case with us. I kind of recognized I needed an infusion of capital, mentorship, leadership, structure, whatever the case may be. The reason I like this firm is because our multidisciplinary model, and that's been our sales approach, and our kind of unique advantage is that we're able to do tax, accounting, and legal under one roof. Well, now with the Haga Comer family of services, we're able to tack on wealth management, insurance, and banking. And that's huge. If I can go to a client that's going through a deal and say, hey, you've got 4 potential buyers, let me introduce them to our bank. And I've got the CEO of the bank, the president of the bank, I've got his cell phone number. Let me introduce you to him, and let's have him pre-qualify the buyer's deals so that when we get close to closing, we don't have this fall through for lack of financing. Toby, being the owner of the firm and the bank, has final say no matter what the underwriters say. If he likes the deal's going to go through. And so it's a huge advantage to be able to have that in our family of services.
Yeah, no, that's nice. So what is your role? Are you one specific thing within this new organization, or are you still multidisciplinary advisory opportunities? Woo, I said it again.
Yeah, so I'll always keep my licensing as a CPA and a lawyer. My focus has always been kind of the strategy piece, business entity structuring, M&A deals, tax planning, those kind of things. And so I continue to do that, but I'm shifting out of client work. I have a handful of clients that I'm still managing, but that's waning more and more now that I have a really solid tax manager that's taking over for me. Mm-hmm. And so my new role is the Chief Growth Officer, which, essentially overseeing growth. And, there's an innovation part of that with regard to the firm's technology that I'm helping with. We put in some AI tools and some other kind of modern tools to pair with our, current tools, and making slow progress there. But, primarily my job is to make sure that we are, as a firm, continue to grow in the right ways. Obviously, we're going to keep growing by acquisition, but we need some organic growth. And hopefully I can do this pretty well before I get fired. We'll see.
All right. Well, we'll check back in a year. Make sure you haven't gotten fired yet.
Sounds good.
So that's what I was going to ask. Is it a combination of organic and acquisitions? And it sounds like the way it has gone for Toby over time is acquisitions as well. And I'm sure organic. And so now you're the guy in charge of making sure that happens. No pressure.
Yeah, it is pressure, but it's good pressure. And I thrive in pressure. I have ADHD, and that's kind of when your brain turns on.
Is it?
Yeah, it's interesting. If I have a blank day with no calendar appointments, which happens like once every 4 years, my brain tends to go creative, and I make a bunch of LinkedIn posts, and I start do this marketing stuff, and I don't but when I have a bunch of client meetings, like I'm dialed in, I get those done, I'm on and kind of more production mode. So it's interesting how it shifts back and forth.
All right. So now we set the stage. A couple of things. I want to make a comment on one thing you said, that realizing that you're really good, or your skill set is, growing to 2 million, but taking that next step, you realize that that's not you. And that's one reason you were looking to do a deal. That's something that same thing I went through, but it took me a lot later in life to make that realization. So I give you a lot of credit for understanding that earlier. But when you lean into, I don't like saying when you identify your weaknesses, because I don't look at it as weaknesses. I look at things you just don't like doing, and that's not where your passion is.
Sure.
And so, but when you identify, but conversely, the positive is when you identify what you are good at and what you love doing. And if you just spend your time in that arena, man, it is just an unbelievable place to be. And that took me a long time to realize, but I give you a lot of credit for doing it a lot earlier in your career than I did. So kudos to you on that.
Well, no, I think you're right, Randy. I learned that probably 3-4 years into running my business, that I always used to think, well, I've got certain things I'm good at, so I'm going to leave those be. I'm going to try to spend my time on the things that I'm not as good at, so I can be more well-rounded. And it's opposite. In reality, what you need to do is delegate those things, create a system, processes, staffing, whatever the case may be, to where those get taken care of by somebody who is good at those. And then you just get better and better and better at the things you're good at until you're great at them.
Yep.
And that's what creates marketability. That's what creates demand.
Yep. No, you are spot on with that. So I just want to let you know, very impressive. So
I appreciate that.
Let's dig into the advisor part of the name, Boss Advisors, before you did this transaction, and how important that is. And then the word that I can't say, multiple advisory opportunities, was one of the things you did, or now with Haga Comer. Is this an area where you can advise on multiple different things within this organization? And I guess part of it, the question is, why do companies get siloed, I guess, in what they think they can advise on compared to having these multiple opportunities to advise on different areas? And is it the size of a firm that makes a difference? Is it people's skill set? I can ask 10 questions within this one, so I should probably stop there so I don't overwhelm your ADHD. Is that how it works? I have no idea.
No, I'll just focus on one, and then I'll go off on a tangent, and it won't be related to anything you said.
Perfect. That's what I love.
So I think there's I don't think there's a wrong answer. And what we're talking about is specializing versus generalizing, right? Kind of the theme. By the nature of what I do and having two separate, completely unrelated degrees, I kind of fell into the generalist bucket. I did develop specialty within nonprofits when I was at EY. So that was great to have that tool in my tool belt. We saw a lot of promotion of niching in the last 5-7 years. Every business coach I've ever worked with, every LinkedIn influencer, everybody says, you got a niche, the riches are in the niches. Pick one industry, get great at it. I think there's nothing wrong with that argument. I've tried to do that organically. I've kind of leaned towards professional services and real estate. And those are the ones I like working with, just because that's what's common in Arizona where I live. Mm-hmm. But I think we're seeing a push. I've seen people talking about this recently on going back to being a generalist. And there's a certain personality and skill set that is required to be pretty good at everything. And I think that's supplemented by AI, because if you're good enough at, all of the general areas of running a business, if you're to at least identify or issue spot when there might be an opportunity or a challenge or an issue or whatever, then you can bring in the big guns. Then you can start doing the AI research on that specific thing answer the specific question, or you can bring in a separate advisor who can, walk through that particular complicated issue. But if you're so specialized in one thing that you don't even know there might be a tax problem when you're working on a CFO strategy, for example,
Yep.
you don't even recognize that there might be a problem here. That's when it starts to, potentially come bite you in the butt. Can I say that word? I know you said no profanity.
You're good, but it's okay. I'm going to say it's okay. All right. So tell me, and I agree with that completely. I am a niche, I say niche, proponent, but I'm also a proponent to what you just said is being able to, I don't think the word's cross-sell, but cross-identify opportunities within that client base. And so you do have to have this additional knowledge. Now, I'm not going to ever, in my mind, tell somebody they have to be an expert in tax and accounting and salt and auditing car dealerships and Burger Kings at the same time and all this, because it just, for me, gets too overwhelming. But I think, especially a firm your size, you can have multiple niches, you can have multiple expertise, and then that cross training within that, like, hey, Mike's talking to this client about tax, but he should understand when there's a blank opportunity as well, but then get it to the right person in the firm. That's the way I look at it. I assume with Haga Comer that you do have these experts in different areas, and part of it is just the identification and then getting it to the person who can do the advisory internal, or am I way off base?
No, that's exactly right. In law school, they talk about issue spotting, and that's a particular skill where you kind of back off of any kind of determination and conclusion mentality, and just kind of let yourself float and ask the question, like, what are the potential implications of what's happening here, right? What are the potential issues? And it's a skill set that I've worked on a lot, and I am pretty good about being able to see a situation and just say, okay, here's all the potential things that might come up. Here's the opportunities. And then let's work on from there. What am I good at? What am I uniquely qualified to do? I'm going to attack those things, but I know I need to bring in a partner on X, Y, or Z, whether that's within the firm or externally. It helps to have, a firm of 250 people that people have different specialties. But, there's things like we were talking about this the other day. If it's an expat situation, if it's, foreign tax stuff, if it's pension, any advanced pension type questions, we'll bring in a qualified, third party intermediary for a 1031 exchange. We're not going to try to do everything. We just stay in our lanes on what we're good at. And, it's possible we'll add a 1031 specialist down the road, but I know enough about 1031s to be able to identify like exactly, at least generally, what the issues are, and then let them know, this is what I think. I'll work with your 1031 advisor. I'll bring one in if you don't have one. I have a great one. And we'll work with them to make sure that we're not off base here and identify any of their issues.
Yeah, I completely agree with that strategy. It's, in fact, part of the conference this year, the Bridging the Gap conference, was strategic partnerships, the importance of teaming up with somebody on areas that you just don't have the expertise, but you need to, service your clients that way. I think that's there's pretty much no firm that can do everything.
Yeah.
I don't even think the big four can do everything. And so just having those relationships, I think, are super important. All right. So, I love hearing the journey, the story, the multidisciplinary. Look at this. I am an expert now.
I'm going to graduate.
Multidisciplinary. I am. I could be a podcast host now. Approach to advisory. I think the big idea is that integrated advisory, that we're able to, do this internally, but again, being able to outsource when we know we need to, but identifying. I think me personally, and I've talked to a bunch of companies out there that are doing really innovative things in the profession. I see AI getting involved in this from an identification standpoint.
Yeah.
What did you call it? Issue spotting or something?
Issue spotting, yeah. That's what I've always called it.
Yep. I think this is going to help, but not just to do it, but to train people on it as well. Because if we just rely on AI, our brains are going to go mush. And so I see that this is going to be a way that we're going to be able to teach people as we integrate advisory more into the roles, which we're going to have to when AI starts doing the compliance work for us, which I shouldn't say start, it already is.
Yeah. Well, I think until we get to the point where we implant chips into our brain, you still have to know enough to think on the fly. And if you're on a phone call or in a meeting with a client, unless you're just going to sit there and be a data monkey and, type up in AI as you go and read the answers, you've got to be able to think on the fly, and you have to have a general understanding of how these things work before you even, can write the correct prompt. Clients aren't going to love when you say, hey, good question. This is fine. This is actually the right answer is good question. Let me get back to you. But if you can't add any value on the call and everything is, hey, let me get back to you after I talk to Claude, you might lose them. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see that happen. Well, I know there's something coming that is going to help us on the fly with that conversation. So it'll be pretty interesting.
A little teaser.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say too much. I don't know if I'm supposed to, but there's tools out there that are going to help with that for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess let's just wrap up with you made this decision to merge your firm in, or I guess you were purchased because I met Toby, and I know Toby's the 100% owner of the organization. So
yes,
and I think he told me, or you told me, that they're the largest single owner firm in the country.
That's right, and it won't be for long because Toby's actually announced that we are going to be owned by an ESOP in the next 2 years.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was.
Yeah, no, he's very open and public about that. That's actually I've brought in I think 4 candidates since I started the firm in November, and that's the easy selling point is, hey, if you stay on, you're going to get equity in this firm, and you stay on for another 15, 20 years, your equity in the firm will outpace most likely any retirement contributions you can put in.
Yep.
And now you'll have a second retirement fund just for your tenure staying at the firm.
Yep. When you introduced me to Toby, when we were at the Phoenix Open, or what's it also called? The
Waste Management Open, such a classy name.
Exactly. That was one of the first questions I asked him is, what is the plan? And he told me that ESOP was the plan. So
yep.
We're going to try to get Toby on the podcast to discuss that down the road. I'm pretty sure you're making it happen. So I assume that's going to happen, but it'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And so you made that decision to sell to Haga Comer, but there was obviously the huge benefits you saw behind it. And part of it is, I assume, this, being able to build a better firm with all these services and this integrated advisory and all these opportunities. So I guess the question I have for you is to pivot a little bit to back to where we started at the beginning is, if somebody was considering a transaction down the road, they feel they got to their firm to a spot, like you said, where they couldn't take it any further. What advice would you give them when they're going through this process?
Yeah, I think you need to understand if your intention is to stay on or if your intention is to go do something else. If it's going to be doing something else, you're going to be under non-compete. I know the first thing I hear from that is people always say, well, non-compete's not enforceable. That's the case. I'm not providing legal advice here. I'm not your lawyer.
Yes, you're not.
Generally, a non-compete is not going to be enforceable under an employment relationship. But when you've received something of value and you've received consideration for the sale of your business, it's absolutely appropriate for that contract to lock you down and say, hey, you can't go start at a competing firm and steal our clients back. You've been paid specifically not to do that for a period of time. So understand what you're going to do next. If you are going to stay on, the best advice I can give you is really take your time, vet out the potential buyers, and make sure that their vision aligns with yours. Because if it doesn't, you're not going to be happy. And that's one thing that I really loved about Toby is we were just lock in step in terms of how to do this and how to build it. And we continue to be. And it's a great partnership because I've got autonomy to do this the way I want to, but I've also got his direction. And he's done this at a very high level that I have not. And so it's just great to have someone to go down the hall and virtual hall. He's in the Scottsdale office. I'm in Mesa, but just to be able to pitch ideas and I get shut down a lot, which is fine. I'm good with that. And this is part of the nature of the beast is I may have 10 ideas, and if one sticks, then I'm still making progress.
Yep. Nice. All right. Well, I think that was great advice. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm going to pivot now. And I think I've said pivot multiple times on the podcast today. I don't normally say that. So this is a new word for me. It's a word I can say. So that's why I wanted to use pivot. So let's go to final 2 things. Obviously, we talked about the profession, accounting and law, and what's going on. But when you're not thinking about accounting or law or building this organization, what do you do for fun? What's your outside of work passions?
So I saw a thing the other day that said men's idea of hobbies are just different modes of transportation.
Yeah.
And so that's the case with me. I ride dirt bikes. I've got a boat. Try to just get outside and spend time with the kids. I just bought a boat with my brother, and it's my kids are all teenagers. It's ideal time to just be on the lake. It's something they all love to do. So yeah, snowboard, that kind of stuff. I'm into live music and comedy and, local sports teams. So that kind of stuff.
Okay. So you just said snowboard and lakes. Where are those near you in Arizona?
Surprisingly, we're only 2 hours from either one. I'm in the Phoenix area, but 2 hours north, you get to Flagstaff, and there's a ski resort. And then I'm actually only 20 minutes from a lake. And it's if you haven't been on a lake in Arizona and been on a boat, hit me up when you're in town. I'll take you out. It's beautiful. And we can go out year round too.
All right. Well, I know for sure my next stop in Arizona is mid-January. So I'll let you know. I don't know if it'll be warm enough or not, but you just said year round. So we'll go for it.
Yeah, you don't get in the water, but we can definitely go on the lake.
All right. And then last question, if anybody wants to hear more about what you're doing or the organization or anything that's going on in your world, where would they look?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Mike Payne, JD CPA, or I have a personal website, themikepayne.com, Payne. Just put some stuff on. I put my podcast on there and just kind of a way to easily find me and contact me.
Wait, we didn't talk about your podcast. What's your podcast?
Podcast that I don't have a podcast. Right. I'd like to start one someday. I'm actually talking to Blake Oliver about putting that together, but podcasts. I've been on 30 something podcasts. So I just like to post them there.
Got it.
So I can go back and just listen to myself because I just learned so much listening to myself. It's really fantastic.
All right. That sounds like a great time. I don't know if I've ever listened to myself. Maybe I should try that. I might do it and go and cringe and say, I got to stop this. I'm not meant for podcasting.
Does my voice really sound like that?
Exactly. Jeez. So, all right. Well, Mike, thank you so much. Thanks for the laughs as much as the education. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you being on this episode of the Unique CPA.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Randy. Always good to catch up.
Thank you for joining us today on the Unique CPA. You can find the show notes for today's episode and book Randy for your next keynote or event at randycrabtree.com. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting app. And join us next time for more expertise and insights on the Unique CPA.
ProfessionalProductions.net